Hi everyone, Jack here from Bridge Coffee Roasters. Today we're going to explore the meaning behind the drinks menu of a specialty cafe. It can be pretty frustrating and difficult to understand what all the different words on the menu mean. And to make matters worse, there's really no industry standard for what each drink should be. So this video just serves as a rough guide for what you might receive at a specialty cafe. It's important to mention that this is based on my own experience. And if you do disagree with any of the recipes that I mentioned today, let us know down in the comments what that drink means to you. So we're going to start off with an espresso, which can be a drink by itself and forms the base for many of the milk drinks that we'll cover today. An espresso is a very small concentrated cup of coffee. They're very intense in flavor and they can often be quite difficult to keep consistent and delicious in a busy cafe. So I personally would only ever really order a straight espresso at a cafe that I've been to before, and I know that they take great care over what they serve. In different places, an espresso can mean different things, but in a modern specialty coffee shop, you can typically expect to receive a 30 to 50 gram drink made from anywhere between 16 to 20 grams of coffee. A standard espresso drink in many coffee shops can also be referred to as a double shot of espresso, which I personally find pretty confusing. But if you go into a modern shop and ask for just a single shot of espresso, usually they'll extract their normal recipe into 2 separate glasses and serve you just the one. Many specialty coffee shops will have a standard coffee that they use for their espresso, which is often referred to as the house blend. It's typically pretty approachable and friendly in flavor, lots of caramels, chocolates, and potentially some fruity flavors in there. A really nice cafe might also offer a guest espresso, which is usually a rotating menu of coffees from different roasters. These will usually be a little bit higher in quality and a little bit different in flavor as well, so it'll give you something new to try when you next return. So the first and smallest of the milk drinks is a macchiato. It's a double espresso that has been marked with a small amount of hot milk foam. It's only been diluted a very small amount by the milk, so you can still taste all the flavors of the espresso, but that small amount of milk just lets you sound a little bit fancier when you're ordering something, and it might take a little bit of the bitterness off from the espresso as well. So next up in size, we have a Cortado. It's a very small, strong, milky coffee, and you'll often hear it be defined as equal parts espresso to steamed milk, but in practice it can be anywhere between 1 part espresso, 2 parts milk, or 1 to 4 parts. It's often served in a small 4-ounce cup or glass. It still lets you taste all the different flavors of the espresso, but compared to an espresso, it gives you a much more substantial drink, something that you can enjoy for a little bit longer as well. Next up, very similar to a Cortado, but just a step up in size, we have a flat white, typically served in a 6 or 8 ounce cup or glass. It is a double shot of espresso, topped up with some hot steamed milk that's barely been foamed at all, hence the name flat white. This is probably my personal choice when I'm visiting a cafe for the first time. Gives you a nice sense of the quality of the coffee that they're using, and the milk just dampens any bitterness that might be there. Next up, and by far the most controversial on today's list, is the cappuccino. Its definition has really changed quite drastically since it left Italy and has been adopted by third wave specialty cafes. There's kind of 2 points of debate. The first is the texture of the milk. A traditional Italian cappuccino would be really thick milk foam, whereas a modern specialty cafe will probably steam the milk a little bit less foamier, which lets the barista still add some latte art over the top. And another point of debate is whether to add chocolate to the cappuccino or not. This can vary between coffee shops and also between individual baristas at a specific cafe. So if you're ordering a cappuccino and you're really set on having chocolate or not having chocolate, it's definitely something worth mentioning to the barista. But typically a modern specialty cafe will serve a cappuccino as a double shot of espresso with medium foam milk in a 6 or 8 ounce cup. So next up on today's menu is a latte. It's probably the easiest to define. It's typically a larger milk-based drink formed of a double shot of espresso, topped with hot steamed milk in a 10 or 12 ounce cup. Many coffee shops will offer different sizes of lattes between 8 and 16 ounces. But in my opinion, a small latte is essentially just a flat white, so these definitions are just a little bit arbitrary. And like a lot of the drinks that we've talked about already, the differences in recipes a lot of the time really come down to the size of the cups that the cafe is working with. You can also order an iced latte, which is very much a cold version of the exact same thing. It's a double shot of espresso poured over ice, topped up with milk. And the final milk-based drink on the menu is a mocha. And there's a couple different ways you can look at it. Either it's a latte with chocolate added, or it's a hot chocolate with a double shot of espresso. Usually it's served in the same 12-ounce cup as the latte. And it's made by combining a double shot of espresso with chocolate, either in the form of a syrup, sauce, or powder, and then topping that up with some hot steamed milk. So next up, we're going to talk about black coffees, and we've already talked about espresso. There's a few other different types, including a lungo and a ristretto. If you want to learn a little bit more about those, then feel free to check out our video all about espresso ratios. So next up in the world of black coffees, we have an Americano. It is a larger black coffee made up of a double shot of espresso with hot boiling water. The size can vary quite a bit depending on the cafe and what cups they're using, but the customer can quite easily ask for a smaller Americano or a larger Americano, and the barista can just add a little bit less or a little bit more hot water. That being said, it's typically served in a 10 or 12-ounce cup, and it's very acceptable for the customer to ask for some milk or sugar on the side, just to add a little bit of sweetness and temper any bitterness coming through the coffee. So a batch brew, or a filter coffee, is a black coffee that's been brewed by a machine in larger batches of, say, 1 litre or 2 litres. It's brewed by pouring hot water over a bed of coffee grounds that's then filtered to remove any sediment from the liquid down below. And it leaves you with a really nice clean cup of coffee with really pronounced flavors. They might have one coffee that's really nice and approachable that they stick to, and maybe even a rotating menu of different coffees with different flavors, processes, and origins to taste something new and different every day. When I've visited a cafe and I know that they care about the coffee and I'm planning on being there a while, I might order a few batch brews just because I know it's going to be consistent and delicious. There's hopefully no bitterness that needs tempering with some milk, and the coffee should be nice and sweet by itself without any sugar. So another way of serving black coffee is a manual pour over or a hand brew. It's essentially a shrunken down version of a batch brew that the barista will brew by hand and ready to order. There's a huge number of different pour-over drippers that can be used, but in my experience, this has been the most common. So whenever you see a V60, this is what it's referring to. If you're visiting a nice specialty coffee shop, there'll probably be a decent number of coffees to try from different origins and processes to get different flavors in the cup. This is a drink that can quite easily spark a nice conversation between yourself and the barista. So you can ask questions about what different coffees they're serving, what equipment they're using, the different flavor notes, all of that good stuff. And they'll hopefully be really passionate and enthusiastic to share that with you. Going back to when I was a barista, I was always really pleased when someone ordered a V60. It meant I could take a little bit more time and have a nice conversation about something that I was really passionate about. So if you order a manual pour over, a V60 or a hand brew, you'll normally be served about 200 milliliters of coffee in a carafe with a glass or a diner style mug. And again, it depends on your personal preference and the coffee that they're using, but it'll probably taste better black without any milk or sugar. Another term you might see on the menu is Aeropress, which refers to this brewer here. It's a fantastic brewer that's really capable of producing some delicious coffee, and every cafe will probably have their own unique recipe. If you want to see the recipe that I like to use, then head to our video titled Brewing Light Roasts on the Aeropress. And what you'll receive is probably about 200 milliliters of delicious black filter coffee. If they're using light or medium coffees, it won't need any milk or sugar. It should be really delicious by itself. So that was all of the drinks today. If I missed any drinks from your local cafe, then feel free to leave any comments down below. And if there were any that you disagreed with, tell me why as well. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like down below. We're putting out new coffee videos every week. So if you did enjoy, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.